for a brand new show. Scooby Doo is here again, away we go.
Scooby Doo is running from a spooky ghost.
Shaggy isn't doing what he does the most. Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo.
Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo. That's my pal. Scooby Dooby Doo.
Hello again, my meddling Scooby Doo fans, and welcome to another review into the world of Scooby Doo. So last time we continued my 2025 Scooby Month with a review of Season 3, Episode 11 of the Scooby Doo Show. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We talked about how it was a pretty average episode, like right down the middle, pretty decent. But it had a bit more negatives than positives, mainly due to the weak and repetitive motive, the villain not being the strongest, and there really being no sense of atmosphere in the episode. But of course today, I'll be covering Season 3, Episode 12 of the Scooby Doo Show, titled Scooby's Chinese Fortune Kooky Caper, which was released on November 25th, 1978. The short synopsis of the episode is, the gang traveled to China, making their way to the city of Rampu. While there, the gang runs into the moon monster, whose shadow, legend says, turns people into stone. So as per usual, I'll be watching Season 3, Episode 12 of the Scooby Doo Show on the Scooby Doo Wario, the complete series box set. This box set has both seasons of Scooby Doo Wario, as well as the third season of the Scooby Doo Show. Like I've said in my previous videos, if you're wondering why the third season of the Scooby Doo Show is on the Scooby Doo Wario box set, it's because Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers like to falsely advertise the third season of the Scooby Doo Show as a fake third season of Scooby Doo Wario. But I've established on the channel many times that there's no third season of Scooby Doo Wario. Scooby Doo Wario only had 2 seasons, while the Scooby Doo Show had 3 seasons. Now, as far as this episode's reception is concerned, I'm not really sure how fans feel about this particular episode. I mean, the Scooby Doo Show isn't a TV show that's talked about a whole lot due to the marketing of it, essentially by Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers. So unless if it's a really high, highly rated episode, usually a lot of these episodes don't get a lot of discussion around them, and this is one of them. I've not heard a ton of discussion on this particular episode. So with that being said, is this episode any good? Is this a good episode that returns us back to good form? Is it a terrible episode that returns us to terrible form? Or is it another decent, average, right down the middle episode, and do we have like a new streak of average, middling episodes? Well, let's find out, shall we? So let's take a look at the episode to see whether I think it is a good or bad episode of the Scooby Doo Show. The episode begins with the gang heading to China, where they get lost and find themselves in the city of Rampu. The city is famous for its legend of the moon monster, a creature who came to Earth from a moonbeam and turned everyone he cast his shadow on into stone. The mystery machine gets a flat tire, and the gang wind up spending the night at the Rampu Palace, where they meet Kim Chow Ling, the new owner of the palace, his uncle, Chin Wong Sing, and Lin Fu. Shaggy and Scooby claim to have seen the legendary moon monster, but the rest of the gang dismiss it. The gang learn that Kim will soon inherit his family's fortune. Ling Fu reminds Kim that the treasure must be disposed of, because if not, the moon monster will wreak havoc on everyone at the palace, according to the legend. Later that night, the moon monster begins to chase Shaggy and Scooby.
I don't know about you, Scoob, but I'm too nervous to sleep. Like, who knows where that moon monster is now? Scoob? Scooby! Where are you?
Up here.
Well, what are you doing up there?
Watching the door.
Watching the door. Good idea, Scooby. That moon creep will never get past you. Hey! Like, watch out! Get off me! What's going on, Scoob?
That's going on.
The moon monster!
Shaggy, help!
Gotcha, Scoob!
They narrowly escape, but not before Velma spots the moon monster rowing away in a sampan. The gang and Kim then hear the dinner gong being rung by Uncle Chin, making it odd since it is 2 in the morning. They discover that Uncle Chin has been turned into stone and the moon monster stands behind him. The monster disappears and Velma finds the first clue, grease streaks behind the statue of Uncle Chin leading into the wall. They search Uncle Chin's room and discover ancient tools, including one carving tool in particular looks recently used, which is another clue. The gang split up and look for clues. Velma, Fred, and Daphne row out onto the bay to discover a nearby sea cave. It is there that they find a tunnel that leads back into the palace. They realize what is going on and decide to trap the moon monster. They tell Kim to bag up the family treasure and throw it into the bay. He does so, and the treasure washes up to the nearby sea cave. The gang take the tunnel to the cave, where they discover the moon monster grabbing the treasure.
The moon monster and my treasure.
Your little game is up, moon monster.
But how?
Hand over the treasure.
Careful, Fred, like you shouldn't make him angry. He's headed this way, Scoob!
Yeah, run! After him!
But I don't understand.
We'll explain later.
He's still behind us, Scoob!
He's just ahead.
Head for the bridge! Toll bridge going up!
Nice catch, Kim.
You mean nice cats Shaggy and Scooby. They caught the moon monster.
Like, how about that, Scoob? We're heroes!
Not bad.
They trap him and the moon monster turns out to be Uncle Chin. Kim is confused as to why his uncle would try to scare him. Back at the Palace of Rampu, the gang explains it was for the treasure. Fred tells Kim that Chin wanted to get the inheritance away from Kim, so he used the legend of the moon monster to frighten him out of his legacy. Kim's confused though, since they saw Chin turned to stone by the moon monster. Velma tells Kim that he's wrong and that Chin was in the moon monster disguise, and Kim rang the gong, and when everyone got to Chin's room, it looked like he was turned into stone. Kim asks about the statue, and Daphne tells him that his uncle carved the statue of himself with the ancient carving tool. Velma explains that the tool was scratched and dull, unlike the rest of Chin's collection, indicating it was used recently. Fred says that the grease marks on the floor was where Chin pushed the statue out from the secret panel when everyone got to his room. Lin Fu tells Kim that he shouldn't have been fooled, and Kim admits that they were all fooled. Velma continues saying that Chin knew that the tides would wash away anything into the bay into the cave, so all Chin had to do was scare Kim into throwing his treasure away and be there to get it when it washed up. With the case solved, Lin Fu suggests that everyone gets a good night's rest. Kim, however, suggests a snack, to which Scooby and Shaggy thank Kim and run for the kitchen to make giant sandwiches with every Chinese ingredient. When they finish making the sandwiches, Scooby realizes he can't fit the Super Stretcher sandwich in his mouth. Seeing his owner tie the sandwich down to compress it, Scooby follows suit. As Shaggy eats his sandwich, Scooby says his famous catchphrase Scooby Doo as he eats it. However, Scooby's neck begins to strengthen, much to Shaggy's shock. Kim comments that Scooby's eyes are bigger than his stomach. Daphne corrects Kim, saying that Scooby's eyes are bigger than his mouth. And the episode ends with Scooby laughing and saying his famous catchphrase. I'm going to give Season 3, Episode 12 of the Scooby Doo Show 3 stars out of 5. So yeah, this was another decent episode. It was alright, right down the middle. Doesn't really sway one way or the other. Isn't like, you know, positive average or negative average. It's just average. Right down the middle. 50-50 with the positives and negatives. Same amount of positives as negatives. It continues the streak of average episodes to 2. So yeah, we're in a bit of a mediocrity stage as we're winding down into Season 3. Hopefully that'll change. Hopefully we'll get some good episodes. But for right now, this episode continues the streak of mediocrity to 2. And yeah, I mean, it's slightly better than the last one, but that's not saying much because it's still average. It's still like, it's okay. I could take it or leave it, but it's not like one I'm going to really revisit that often. So I can really start with either the positives or negatives, but I'll start off with the negatives first before I get on to the positives of the episode and what I did actually like about the episode. So starting with the negatives, my first one is I think Fred, Daphne, Velma were all weak in this episode. So yeah, like the last episode, Fred, Daphne, Velma didn't really do a whole lot for me in this episode. When it comes to Fred, once again, I didn't get much of a sense of leadership out of him. He wasn't really much of a leader in this episode. He didn't really tell the gang what to do, where to go, and what to do next. Like, there was only one instance of that, but he didn't really feel like a leader in this episode. He didn't have that many moments. He didn't create a cool trap at the end. The monster just kind of got captured by Shaggy and Scooby due to sheer dumb luck, really, and less by Fred creating a trap or anything. And he didn't really find any of the clues individually. Like, all the clues were found by the gang together with other people. So, yeah, there was no, one individual person that found clues. So, yeah, and he didn't help piece together the clues, help solve the mystery either. So, yeah, Fred didn't really fulfill much of anything in this episode. Daphne, yeah, once again, still hasn't really done a whole lot. Wasn't really much of a leader, didn't really help piece together the clues to help solve the mystery, wasn't cowardly or comedic, didn't really find any clues individually. Daphne didn't really stand out in any way for me in this episode, so yeah, fortunately Daphne, once again, just another bad episode for her. Velma, same thing, she didn't fulfill her basic role, she didn't help piece together the clues to help solve the mystery. I don't feel like the gears were turning in her head whenever she was finding clues, at least not to me. It didn't really seem like she was fulfilling that role. She wasn't really much of a leader, and she didn't find any clues individually. Like I said before, all the clues were found by the gang as a collective group. So yeah, overall, the Fred, Daphne, Velma just did not fulfill their basic roles or do anything to stand out in this episode, and they were overall pretty weak. They're a little bit better than the last episode because they had moments, unlike the last episode, where they had moments of their usual roles here and there, but not enough for me to consider it good. So yeah, Fred, Daphne, Velma didn't really do it for me. They were once again weak across the board. Outside of costume, I found Chin Wong Sing to be very uninteresting. So Uncle Chin as a character really didn't do a whole lot. He only pretended to be a victim, and he was in one scene before that with Kim and, Lin Fu and the others and the gang. So, yeah, he didn't really do a whole lot as a character. He didn't really set up the backstory of the Moon Monster. That's really what Lin Fu was for. In fact, Lin Fu was the red herring, really, whereas Uncle Chin was the more, subdued one. He was the less suspicious one. And so, yeah, he, as a character, for me, he didn't do a whole lot. He was an uninteresting character outside of costume. So yeah, I personally didn't really find his character to be that interesting outside of costume. I found the motive of the episode to be very weak and simplistic, in all honesty. So essentially, Uncle Chin, or Chin Wong Sing's motive, was that essentially he wanted to scare everyone so that he could steal his nephew's inheritance. Now, stealing a family member's inheritance, or stealing an inheritance in general, isn't anything new in the Scooby Doo franchise. We've had this before in this particular series as well. In fact, I believe in To Switch a Witch, that was one of the aspects of the motive. So it's nothing new. But the problem isn't the motive not being original because, we're on the third show of the series, the third show of the franchise. I'm not expecting much originality. I know they're going to reuse a couple of motives, and I'm not upset about that. I've said that in past videos. My main thing is that essentially either create an original motive, or if you're going to reuse a motive, try to add some layers to it to make it fun and interesting and a bit fresh and unique. Add something to it that maybe makes it a little bit more interesting. Nothing about this motive had any sort of layers to it. It was the most simplistic version of the motive. He just essentially wanted to steal his nephew's inheritance, and that was it. There was no layers to it. It was not interesting in the slightest, and this was just a very weak, simplistic motive. We've had this motive been, we've had this motive in this particular series before, and probably in past series, so this isn't anything new. It's just a basic, boring, weak, and simplistic money motive. I found the clues of the episode to be very weak, in all honesty. So the main clues of the episode was essentially the grease marks behind the statue, the Uncle Chin statue. You had the broken chisel in Uncle Chin's room, and then you had the fluorescent powder that Shaggy, Scooby, as well as the rest of the gang find in one of the rooms. Now, none of these clues, to me, really help point towards a motive in the episode. None of them really help point towards the motive of wanting to steal the nephew's inheritance. And I don't really feel like they narrow down the list of suspects. Maybe it could be argued that the broken chisel and the grease marks could point towards Uncle Chin. But I don't feel it is. I don't feel it's definitive enough for me. I feel like it's, to me, those clues just explain how Uncle Chin achieved his, his scheme, how he achieved his motive, how he achieved his special effects. The fluorescent powder explained the glow of the moon monster, and the statue explained how he was able to be the moon monster while, being potentially a victim of the moon monster at the same time. And the broken chisel explained how he created a statue of himself. So, to me, none of these clues help narrow down the list of suspects, and they don't help point towards a motive in the episode. They just explain the basic stuff of how he achieved the moon monster effects and a scheme, which is what I expect out of a Scooby Doo episode. I need more than that. Like, I expect the Scooby Doo episode to explain how the villain achieved his effects. What I'm looking for is, does it help point towards a motive, or does it help narrow down the list of suspects, or does it do both? If it doesn't do either, then the clues to me just are pretty weak. And my final negative is I found the atmosphere of the episode to be very weak, in all honesty. So I really didn't feel much of an atmosphere in this episode. I felt no tension or suspense or creepiness or eeriness from either the villain or the setting. Which is odd, because while the moon monster has a really cool ability in that he can turn people into stone, and it makes him as a villain good and strong, they don't really they don't really use that to their advantage to make the atmosphere strong enough. Like, I feel like they don't bring it up enough, or present the danger enough of, hey, the gang could potentially turn into stone. Like, there's no the atmosphere doesn't really hammer home that point of the gang possibly turning into stone. Shaggy and Scooby mention it once while they're being chased by the moon monster, but I would have liked if they kept reiterating that point. That maybe that would be a bit redundant for the audience, but I would like that because maybe it would enhance the atmosphere, or maybe the moon monster needed to do something a little more threatening to make him, to add to the atmosphere. As it stands, to me, the moon monster himself doesn't really help contribute to any sort of atmosphere, because I don't fear for the gang's safety. Despite the ability of possibly turning the gang into stone, the episode doesn't really present that as a real threat. I think maybe it would have helped had they maybe turn someone else into stone besides Uncle Chin. Maybe if the moon monster kidnapped someone and turned them into stone, maybe that would have helped enhance the atmosphere a little bit, or maybe that would have helped. I don't know, but I feel like that would have, or just something like that would have probably helped enhance the atmosphere in some way. I wasn't on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen next, and I didn't find anything particularly creepy or eerie about either the moon monster or the setting itself. So neither of the main two key factors, the villain or the setting, help contribute the atmosphere, and nothing in the episode at all, really enhances the atmosphere in any way. The atmosphere does not come naturally. It is not really non-existent. It's really not there. It's pretty weak. There's a potential to have atmosphere if they hammer home the point of the moon monster using his ability to turn people into stone to maybe other people. But they don't really hammer home that point of that threat. So to me, if you're not, because they don't do that, they don't really do a good enough job to present any sort of danger towards the gang's safety. So, yeah, no atmosphere to speak of for me. It's pretty weak. I didn't feel any sort of tension or suspense or creepiness from me or eeriness from either the villain or setting. But that's all I got for negatives for the episode. So I think it's about time to get on to the positives of the episode and what I did actually like about the episode. So starting with the positives, my first one is I think Shaggy and Scooby were good in this episode. They fulfilled their basic roles. They were their usual funny, cowardly selves. I had a good enough time with them. They had a few humorous moments. They were overall very cowardly. And they helped capture the villain at the end. They were the ones that captured the moon monster at the end, so they were helpful. And yeah, I mean, this was an alright episode for Shaggy and Scooby. They fulfilled their basic roles, and they helped capture the villain at the end, so I overall had a good time with Shaggy and Scooby. I thought they were fun and enjoyable in this episode, and were very helpful in this episode. Then we had the villain of the episode, who I thought was okay. He wasn't too bad. So the main villain of the episode is, of course, the moon monster. Now, the moon monster isn't particularly scary or entertaining, but what makes him a good villain for me is his power to turn others into stone. Also, the mystery of his backstory is pretty cool. The vagueness of him as a being. So, I feel like the moon monster is an enjoyable villain because even though we know the story that he comes down from the moonbeams and turned to some being that came down from like the moon a being that came down from the moonbeams and could turn people into stone. We don't know a whole lot about what kind of being he is, where he comes from. We don't know what his true purpose is. So there's a lot of cool mystery around him. He has this cool, interesting power to turn people into stone. Now, I wish they had maybe taken a little bit more advantage of it. Maybe like turning someone else into stone besides just Uncle Chin. To reiterate that point that, turning into stone is a very real possibility. But regardless, I feel like the moon monster was overall okay. He was a decent villain. But like I said, I don't find him particularly scary. I don't consider him to be a very scary villain. And I don't really find him to be a fun or entertaining villain to watch. But I do like the mystery surrounding him, and I do like the power to turn people into stone. So I feel like overall the moon monster is an alright villain. He's definitely more on the positive side. I gave him a pass, but he definitely could have been way stronger. But as it stands, yeah, he's alright. He's decent. I thought there were a good number of suspects in the episode. So you had 2 suspects in the episode. You had Uncle Chin, or Chin Wong Sing, and you had Lin Fu. So 2 suspects in the episode, 50-50. Lin Fu's obviously the red herring, while Uncle Chin is the one that's the less suspicious. So it's kind of a 50-50 of, will Hanna-Barbera go for the red herring, or will they go for the less suspicious person? Because you never know. Hanna-Barbera can go either way. They've shown that they can go either way in plenty of episodes. So it's a good 50-50. They're both, equally suspicious. And it's a good number of suspects because you have 1 villain, 2 suspects. Good 50-50. So it gives you have a 50% chance of guessing it right. So yeah, I felt like overall the suspect department was good enough. I found the mystery of the episode to be good as well. So the mystery I found for this episode was, who exactly is the moon monster? Like, what kind of being is he? Like, we know he comes down from the moonbeams and could turn people into stone. But is he an alien? Is he a paranormal being? Is he a god? What kind of being is he? And also, why does he want this specific treasure? And why is he haunting this particular palace? What's special about this palace and the treasure in this palace? Why would this being want treasure? Is it cursed? Does he have a tie to this treasure? Is that why he's haunting the palace? Or is there some other reason? So there's a lot of good mystery about why the moon monster is in this particular Chinese palace. And why like he's after this specific treasure in this palace. And also, like, what kind of being the moon monster is. Like, whether he's an alien, or a ghost, or a demon, or a god. You don't know. Like, there's a lot of good, questions for the moon monster. And we get, decent enough answers for them. So, yeah, I think the mystery was really good. And my final positive is I found the setting of the episode to be good as well. So, The main setting of the episode is, of course, the Palace of Rampu in China. Now, China's a really interesting setting for an episode. It's actually a really cool setting, because even though we had Chinatown in, Mystery Mask Mix-Up back in Scooby Doo, Where Are You? You could tell that that was still in the States, it was still in America, and that was probably just Chinatown in, like, San Francisco or something. But this episode actually takes place in China. The gang actually go to China, and it's actually really cool and different. And it doesn't feel like it reuses elements from that Chinatown episode in Scooby Doo, Where Are You? So I actually really like the idea of going to China as a setting for the episode. And I think, a palace isn't particularly anything new, because I think we had a palace setting in the new Scooby Doo movies, if I remember correctly. So it's not anything new, but what I like about this particular palace is I like how expansive it is. The gang don't feel like they're just in one place all the time. They don't feel confined. This palace feels really huge, really big. There's a lot of sections to it to explore, and it feels like we get to explore different parts of the palace. And I think it's a cool setting overall. I like the idea of a setting, the setting being China. I like the palace setting. I think it's really cool because they take full advantage of it. So yeah, I feel like overall the setting is really good. I feel like they do a good job exploring, making it expansive. The gang get to explore different parts of the palace, and I like the idea of, this taking place in China, a setting that we haven't had before. Overall, guys, I would personally not recommend this episode to fans and newcomers to the show. Despite it being a basic, average, middle-of-the-road episode, it just doesn't have enough rewatch value for me. I just don't feel like it's a rewatchable episode. I don't feel like it has a lot of rewatch value. I just feel like there are better episodes out there, and while it's, not the worst episode, and it's a little bit better than the last one, it's just mediocre. Like, it's not the best example of the Scooby Doo Show, and I feel like there are better episodes to go towards, and this just isn't one of them. Like, I just can't in good faith recommend this, because it's just a basic, average, mediocre, middle-of-the-road episode that doesn't really have a lot of rewatchability to it, and I just feel like there are better episodes to, seek out in the Scooby Doo Show rather than this one. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Do you like this episode? Do you think I'm being a bit too harsh on it? Do you think there are more positives to it that you see that I don't see? Do you hate this episode? I'd be interested in that as well. Do you think I'm being too lenient with it? Do you think there are more problems with the episode that you see that I don't see? Or you right down the middle like me, where you think it's decent, average, middle of the road, mediocre, okay, but it's not good or bad. I'm curious for your thoughts, let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in any of my other content, obviously I'll have more Scooby Doo reviews on the way. This is a Scooby-focused channel, so we cover all things ranging from the TV shows, the movies, the video games, the books. So if you're a diehard, you're a casual Scooby Doo fan like me, if you're a diehard fan like me, or even just a casual fan who loves Scooby Doo, and you want to join in on each individual discussion on different TV show episodes and movies and video games and books, and chime in with your own thoughts on each individual Scooby Doo property, then come join the channel and experience some amazing Scooby Doo content. So that's it, guys. That's the end of my 2025 Scooby Month. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys, had fun celebrating Scooby Doo's 56th birthday along with me. I'm talking all things Scooby Doo during September. And in my next video, we will be kicking off my 2025 Halloween special with a review of Season 3, Episode 13 of the Scooby Doo Show, titled A Menace in Venice. I am really excited for this episode. I am super stoked for this episode. I have really fond memories of A Menace in Venice. I remember really liking this episode. I've gone back to it a couple times. So I am really pumped and really excited to see if it lives up to my expectations. I think we might have a good episode again. I'm praying that it's as good as I remember it to be, but we will see. I'm super excited. I cannot wait to talk about the ghostly gondolier and the Italian setting and all that. It's going to be such a fun time. I remember really loving it. So if you want to know my thoughts on Season 3, Episode 13 of the Scooby Doo Show, A Menace in Venice, then come join me next time. Anyway, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, peace out.
We got it all together for a brand new show. Scooby Doo is here again, away we go.
Scooby Doo is running from a spooky ghost.
Shaggy isn't doing what he does the most. Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo.
Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo. That's my pal. Scooby Dooby Doo.